Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. It is 4:30 on Thursday, July 27th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the May 25th, 2023 meeting. Are there any changes, corrections?
I've got none. I'll offer a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
it.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider the application of Paul and Janice Gorman requesting a conditional use permit to exceed the height limitations for a fence in the front yard area of 7th South Street on the front half of Lot 8, Block 72, south of Center Street. The street address of the property is 627 South Broadway. City report.
All right. The applicant here again is Paul and Janice Gorman. They are also the property owner. You just mentioned the legal description, but the street address again is 627 South Broadway. The property is located on the east side of Broadway, north of 7th North Street between Broadway and South Minnesota Street. Deadline for a decision on this application is September 12th, 2023. The comprehensive plan land use designation for this property is medium-density residential. Surrounding land uses, based on the comprehensive plan, to the north is medium and low-density residential. To the east, medium and low-density residential. South, medium and low-density residential. And then to the west, medium-density residential. Zoning designation for this property is RT2, that is the traditional neighborhood single and two-family residence district. Surrounding zoning to the north, east, and south is also RT2, and then to the west is B2, the general business district. Currently, the site is used as a single-family residence. Current area land uses include to the north, east, and south single-family dwellings, and then to the west a funeral home and church. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on July 17th, 2023. Staff did receive one phone call in support of the fence height and its current location. Project description. Purpose of the RT2 zoning district is to provide for low-density 1 and 2 unit dwellings generally located in grid development pattern along with directly related and complementary uses. Section 13.2 of Appendix A describes a front yard as an open, unobstructed area extending along the full width of the front lot line between the side lot lines and extending from the abutting street right-of-way line to the depth required in the setback regulations for the zoning district in which such a lot is located. So this property has two front yards, one facing South Broadway and then the other front yard facing 7th South Street. When a property has two front yards or is a corner lot, the opposite property lines are considered side yards. So for properties located on a numbered street in the RT2 zoning district, the front yard setback is 10 feet. In this situation, that part of the fence facing 7th South Street and facing east towards the neighboring property for the first 9 feet is also located within the front yard setback area and is required to be no taller than 48 inches. Section 10.3EB of the zoning ordinance states that fences not exceeding 48 inches in height may be located within the front yard setback area. The applicant has previously installed this 6-foot tall fence in the front yard setback area, approximately 1 foot from the front yard property line. And again, it would be required to be 48 inches in that location. When locating fences within the front yard setback area, there exist required site and safety areas where the fence is not allowed or needs to be 50% or more transparent. These fences include areas abutting a driveway or on a street corner. So there's no problem with the street corner here, but it's abutting a driveway. Staff has been in contact with the applicant and has requested that the fence be lowered to 48 inches where necessary, or locating the fence behind the setback line. At this time, the property owner indicated that they would like to keep the fence at 6 feet in height and would apply for a conditional use permit for that purpose. The application provided the following information on the project. He has considered various options, but if he were to move the fence back, it would take away from the off-street parking area. The reason they wanted to keep the 6-foot fence is that the person residing in the residence has a diagnosed disability related to anxiety and needs to have some outside privacy area. They stated that this property has no trees or natural barriers to provide an outdoor privacy area and is completely exposed to the world from both South Broadway and 7th South Street. They noted that they would be willing to remove the 2 panels or cut them down to a height of 4 feet if the current tenant were able to find alternative housing. They noted that the city has allowed fences to be higher in the front yard in residential districts if certain situations warranted. They also noted that the conditional use permit for a fence height will not adversely affect the neighbors or cause any traffic concerns. So in order to recommend approval of the permit, the commission will need to determine that the request complies with the review criteria found in section 2.4D2, Appendix A of the City Code. And this review criteria can also be found in the findings of fact form. Again, the Planning Commission and City Council must make an affirmative finding on all the criteria found in that findings of fact form in order to approve the conditional use permit. We had 6 attachments with this application. The first was the application and site building plan provided by the applicant. Attachment number 2 is a site location map. Attachment 3 is a zoning map showing the location of the property. Attachment 4 is up on the screen, and it's a site map. Up on the screen, highlighted in yellow on the east side of the property is a 6-foot fence that is in compliance with the fence regulations. The arrow just to the south of that is pointing to the area that we're requesting the conditional use permit for, where that fence is 6 feet in height, but in the front yard setback. So that's in blue. We had attachment number 5, which were ground level photographs of the property. And then we had attachment 6, the staff's response to the findings of fact form. So staff's recommendation, this is where I typically go through the findings of fact.
Pardon me?
This is typically where I would go through the findings of fact.
Well, typically we do that after I close the public hearing.
Okay, we can do it that way. That works. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
So conditions, staff had recommended 4 conditions if the planning commission decided to approve this application. First condition would be that the applicant or property owner will pay the cost to record the permit with the Brown County Recorder's Office. Number 2, that the fence will be regularly maintained and not become or remain in a condition of disrepair or constitute a nuisance. Number 3, the permit is limited to the location and dimensions of the installed fence located in the front yard area on 7th South Street side of the property. And number 4, if the property were to be sold to another person or the current tenant moves off the property, the fence located in the front yard setback area shall be reduced to 48 inches or be removed completely. And that would conclude the staff report.
Okay. Are there any questions for John or are the Gormans here? There's no one here representing them.
Yes, Mr. Gorman is here.
Okay.
If you,
Are there any questions that we have for the city or staff?
Well, I guess I've got a question. What's the history of the fence? It looks like it's been there a while. And so was there a permit originally taken out for the fence, I
there was
guess?
a permit originally taken out for the fence last year, I believe, and in that application, it was supposed to be 48 inches, or that's what it said was going to be 48 inches, and I think they started work on it, and they thought they would go 6 feet instead. So that's why there was follow-up from city staff on this one, saw that it was 6 feet. We got in contact with the property owner and told them about the issue, and kind of gave him what his options were, either to A, remove the fence entirely or cut it down to 48 inches, or a third option would be to apply for a conditional use permit. That's why we're here.
Okay.
My other question would be, does it fall into our corner, like of your driveway situation? Some driveways, we've had them back further from the sidewalk or for sight view, I guess.
Right, there is supposed to be an angle out 25 feet from the driving lane, 25 feet from the driving lane where a driveway goes into a property. This is within that. It's also a retaining wall on the north side of the driving lane there too, which kind of does the same thing. But it is set back from the sidewalk a fair amount, and but yeah, that is a requirement.
Okay.
I drove past the property and I questioned it because it seemed part of the reason for asking for this was a privacy fence for an autistic child living there. Was that not part of the application or the reason for this?
Well, they have, I don't know about autism in particular, but a person that has some disabilities that want some anxiety issues and disabilities that they wanted to keep this fence.
Okay, because it's really only screened, the area is still wide open because there's no screening in front of it, so I had some confusion there, but.
Maybe,
Yes, could you step to the microphone and state your name and address, please?
this mic is right over here.
Well, first, I'm Paul Joseph Gorman from North Mankato, Minnesota, and I do, with my spouse, own this home. We really had no desire to be landlord homeowners, and as a landlord homeowner, I had no desire to put extra money into building a fence. I really had no desire to spend $200 on the permit application. That's as a landowner. But I'm also a dad. And my son is diagnosed with sufficient disorders to have a Social Security disability. He's a good kid, but he does have a tremendous amount of personal anxiety, and his ideal place would have been a place out in the country with lots of trees and privacy. But we simply could not afford or find a home that met that criteria. When we found this house, it was under $100,000. We bought it in January, and then that spring I did spend $16,000 on the retaining wall and about $10,000 in the house. We've had a great relationship with Chief Mako of the fire department, and have brought the house up to current electrical and fire codes. And what I do want to point out is that, this is Broadway. This is the front yard. This little spot here is Joe Gorman's only backyard. I mean, this is his front yard, this is his backyard. That's it. And I realize there is this side street and their zoning looks at it a little differently. When I put the fence up, I was aware of the 6-foot limitations. We had so many projects to do, and I had other projects at my daughter's house, and I still do farm consulting work, so that gears up after harvest. But we just finished the fence before winter came on, and we bought 6-foot high, 8-foot long panels, because that's how they come. And our goal was to get those panels up before snow, and we finished just before snowfall. So I knew I would probably need to lower those to 4 feet. It's not that I didn't know. I really, truly hoped it would be overlooked and that my son would have a corner here at least where they could have a little private area out of the sight of everybody. So that's really what this is all about. And the city staff has been wonderful to work with. They've been not only polite and professional, but I think have displayed compassion toward my situation, or my son's situation. I don't know how long he'll live in New Ulm, but we got him out of a old junk double wide in the trailer court in Jordan, Minnesota, that was where park rent was $550 a month, just park rent. And he's got 2 boys, 2 sons. This gives him a home for his boys, for my grandsons, and that's where this is all coming from. So I'm open to all questions, and we'll try to answer them for you, if we have any.
To follow up with that, though, condition 4, if the property is sold to another person or the current tenant moves off the property, the fence will be located, removed, or cut down. Is there a guarantee that that's going to be happening, or is that going to fall upon the city to clear out?
Well, what we would do is, if this goes to the city council with those conditions, there will be a resolution that goes with that motion by the council. Whatever they decide, those conditions and the resolution gets recorded with the county recorder on the property. So when they do a title search or something like that, that should pop up.
And go back to the expense of the property owner to remove?
Well, I guess that would be up to the seller and the buyer, but that's when it would be brought up again.
I would just speak to the issue that when Joe leaves, I have no interest in the property to be I'm 77 years old. I really don't want to be a landlord and rent properties. So if Joe moved out of the house, I would probably sell the property, and I would just take those two panels and cut 2 feet off the bottom and lower them down to 4 feet, and because I think the fence would have value for the next owner. Our plan now is to paint or stain as soon as we can get this resolved, so, and as soon as the weather isn't quite so hot. And as far as removal, as long as I'm capable, I would do it. If something happens to me, my wife would hire somebody to do it. We're not the sort of people that would, duck out on that. It's just not that big a deal that we would not do it. Simpler to comply than to not comply.
And there's no driveway obstruction as far as people going in and out of the property adjacent?
No, none whatsoever.
Or that driveway coming up the hill if someone's coming up 7th?
Elwood Zabel, building official. So I was out there this afternoon. It's within that triangle, but it's set back farther from the sidewalk where that triangle's really at a foot. This one's set back farther, and I was about halfway between the properties here. And there was a car parked in there, a Prius, and you could see it at that point already. And
Okay.
coming around the other way from Broadway, it's visible right there already.
All right.
So, I mean,
So anybody coming up 7th will see a car parked in that driveway that's
well,
potentially
it's that and the sidewalk itself, somebody walking on the sidewalk, there's gonna be,
visible.
it's gonna be visible, yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
And that is my son's.
Are there any other questions before I close the hearing on this and go to the facts finding?
I've got none. I just appreciate the explanation and
Right.
everything like that, so.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to the finding of facts.
Okay, so approval of
Oh,
a conditional
wait a
use
minute,
permit
what did I just
application
do?
requires that the city find that conditions can be established to ensure that all the following criteria will always be met. Criteria number 1 is the proposed use allowed as a conditional use in the zoning district in which it is proposed? Staff responded, yes. Fences in the front yard setback area in residential zoning districts have been permitted with approval of the CUP, with the approval of a CUP in the past. You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Number 2, is the use consistent with the applicable policies, recommendations, and regulations of the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted land use studies and Appendix A? Staff responded yes, that the request is consistent with policies, recommendations, and regulations of the comprehensive plan. A fence is an allowed use in a medium-density residential district.
Correct.
Agreed.
Okay, number 3, will the use adversely impact nearby properties through nuisance, noise, traffic, dust, or odor, or unsightliness, and will not otherwise adversely impact the health, safety, and welfare of the community? Staff responded no. The fence will not adversely impact nearby properties. The adjoining property to the east supports the fence. There are no safety or traffic sightline concerns with the 6-foot tall fence in this location.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 4, will the use be injurious or hazardous to the use and enjoyment of other property in the vicinity and impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property surrounding property for uses permitted in the district? Staff responded no. The granting of this conditional use permit does not impact neighboring properties or their use. Staff would recommend that this 6-foot tall section be removed or reduced to 4 feet if the current owner were to sell the property.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 5, will the use be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in a manner that is compatible with the appearance, with the existing or intended character of the surrounding area? Staff responded yes. The installed wood slatted fence is consistent with residential fences in the neighborhood.
Agree.
Okay, number 6, will the use not substantially diminish or impair the value of neighboring properties? Staff responded no. The installation of a residential style fence at 6 foot tall is not likely to impact neighboring property values.
Correct.
Agreed.
Okay. 7, the site is adequately served by and will not impose a burden on essential public facilities, services, including utilities, streets, drainage, police, fire, and protection, and schools. Staff responded that this question wasn't applicable. This request requires no use of public facilities or utilities.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 8, will the development and operation of the use create an excessive additional requirements at public cost or the facilities and services and will be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community? Staff responded no. The fences and its location do not create any additional public costs or will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community.
Agreed.
Number 9, have adequate measures been taken to minimize traffic congestion on public streets and provide for adequate on-site circulation of traffic, parking, and loading spaces? Staff responded that this criteria wasn't applicable as this use does not require any additional parking or traffic considerations.
Agree.
Agreed.
Number 10, will the use result in the destruction, loss, or damage of natural, scenic, or historic features of major importance in the community? Staff responded no. The fence has been installed on an existing residential lot with no natural, scenic, or historical features located within the general area.
Agreed.
Number 11, have impacts such as noise, odors, hours of activity, outdoor lighting, and site pollution been sufficiently addressed to mitigate impacts on nearby uses? Staff responded yes. The use will not generate noise, odor, outdoor lighting, or additional activity or site pollution. There's no impact on neighboring properties in regards to the before stated items.
Agreed.
Agreed.
12, do the benefits of the use outweigh the potential negative effects of the surrounding community? Staff responded yes. The 6 foot tall fence provides a benefit to the property owner with respect to privacy and the reasons provided in the conditional use permit application.
Agree.
Last, will the use be required to adhere to any additional criteria outlined in section 9.2 for the proposed use? Staff responded no. There are no additional requirements outlined in section 9.2 for this use.
Agree.
And that is the end of the findings of fact
Okay,
criteria.
thank you. I think we've answered the questions all affirmatively, but I do need a motion.
I'd make a motion to recommend approval with the conditions, the conditional use permit application of Paul and Janice Gorman to allow a 6-foot tall fence to remain in the front yard setback area on 7th South Street side of the property zoned RT2, traditional neighborhood, single and 2-family residence district, and legally described as the front half of Lot 8, Block 72, south of Center Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. When does this appear at the council?
This will go to the city council next Tuesday, August 2nd at 4:30.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your help, Mr. Gorman. Next item on the agenda is again the public hearing to consider the application of Fred and Laura Bianchi requesting the variance for the following: to reduce the front yard setback on North Valley Street to 0 feet, to increase the allowable size of the detached accessory building to 1,200 square feet, and to secure the maximum height of a detached accessory building to 23 feet, to consider to allow the construction of a detached accessory building in an RT2 traditional neighborhood residence zoning district on parts of Lot 8 through 13th, Block 11, north of Center Street, and located at 1106 North Valley Street. City report.
Okay, again, the applicant are Fred and Laura Bianchi, and they are also the property owners. You recently just gave the legal description, and the street address is 1106 North Valley. The property is generally located between the railroad and North Valley Street, north of 11th North Street on an unimproved portion of North Valley Street. Deadline for a decision on this variance request is September 8th, 2023. The land use designation by the comprehensive plan is low-density residential. Surrounding land uses for the comprehensive plan to the north and west are low-density residential. To the south to the south is also low-density residential, and then to the east, it is industrial. The zoning designation for this property is RT2, traditional neighborhood, single and 2-family residence district. Surrounding zoning to the north, west, and south are RT2, and then to the east across the railroad tracks is I2, general industrial district. Currently, the site is vacant. Current area uses to the north is a street and detached accessory buildings. And then to the west are single-family residences and detached accessory structures. To the south are single-family residences, and there is also another detached accessory structure. And then to the east is the railroad and industrial buildings. Notice was provided to all property owners within 350 feet of the subject property and published in the Journal on July 15th, 2023. Staff has received 2 phone calls regarding the variance request. Those 2 phone calls were not in opposition to the variance setback, but did have concerns about the height and size. One party requested that there be a condition added to the variance that the building be stick-built to match surrounding residential properties and not be a pole shed with steel siding. We have received 3 emails from neighbors with regards to the variance request. 2 were in opposition to the height and size, and 1 was in opposition to all 3 variance requests. The emails are included in this staff report as attachment 7. So a site description and use. First, we're going to go over the lot size and the configuration. So lots 12 and 13 have a reduced depth as the railroad cuts through the middle of these lots, leaving the remainder of the lots on the east side of the railroad under different ownership and fronting North Front Street. The lot is triangular in shape and has an approximate dimension of 58 feet for the south lot line, 220 feet for the east lot line, and then 212 feet for the west lot line. So you can see that in attachment 4 on the site location map. So because of the triangular shape of the lot, there is no north lot line. The lot has approximate area of 6,460 square feet. The lot fronts an unimproved portion of North Valley Street. And at this time, there are no plans by either the city engineer or the city street department to improve this street segment. In this area of the community, there are a number of lots that are split due to the alignment of the railroad. So first variance request, the reduction in the front yard setback. So the minimum front yard setback in the RT2 zoning district for a detached accessory structure is 30 feet. A variance was granted for this property in 2019 to reduce the front yard setback to 20 feet. The applicant here is requesting a variance to construct the building 0 feet from the front yard property line. So increase in the maximum floor size of a detached accessory structure. The maximum floor size for a detached accessory structure in the RT2 zoning district is 1,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to construct the building to a maximum of 1,200 square feet. In addition to zoning regulations, Minnesota State Building Code requires that any detached garage over 1,000 square feet be designed and signed by an engineer. Increase in maximum height. The maximum height allowed for a detached accessory structure in the RT2 zoning district is 16 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance to construct the building to 23 feet at the peak. So a little bit of history here. The property was granted 2 variances in October 2019. Those variances were to allow for the construction of a private storage facility on a property without a permitted use being present, and to allow the building to be placed 20 feet from the front property line and 5 feet from the rear property line. These variances were granted for the following reasons by the Planning Commission. Number 1, the lot was unusual in shape and size, and there were no plans to improve North Valley at that location. Number 2, the lots have been undeveloped for many years, and the staff was not aware of any interest in developing them at that time. Number 3, there are a number of other storage sheds on properties without permitted uses in the general area. I should note that there are 2 variances granted in the area to construct detached accessory structures on the property without a permitted use in 1998 and 2006. The first variance that was granted in 1998 was to 1117 North Valley to allow the construction of a detached accessory building larger than 1,000 square feet. The second variance was granted in 2006 to 1002 North Valley Street to construct a private garage without a residence. The maximum allowed size was 28 by 38 or 1,064 square feet. I'm going to skip through a number of the project details because I'd just be repeating myself from what we just talked about. So the plans submitted for this building do indicate that the building will be of a steel pole building type of construction. It should be noted that the site has recently been filled with soil and gravel and clay to construct a building on that site. You can see that in the photos of the site in your report. There is a substantial slope on the rear or the east side of the property as it abuts the railroad. So unique circumstances. The lot is unusual in shape and the configuration due to the railroad alignment dividing this lot. There is substantial slope on the rear of the property as it abuts the railroad. And the property is located on an unimproved gravel portion of North Valley between 10th and 11th North Streets. Staff did evaluate all three variance criteria, or variance requests. And they believe that the variance request to reduce the front yard setback meets the variance criteria. But staff did not believe that the variance request to increase the size or height of the building met the variance criteria necessary to approve the request. In order to recommend approval of the variance request, the commission will need to adopt findings of facts and recommendations using the review criteria as provided on the findings of fact form in your packet. The planning commission and city council again must make affirmative action on all the variance criteria in order to grant a variance. I'm actually going to go up to the podium to go through a couple of the attachments so you guys can see them.
That's where I had some questions for you, so.
Okay. I did want to point out, this was in the applicant's packet. We had worked with this applicant, kind of showing him what the setbacks are on that property and what the buildable area would be. And as you can see, the buildable area is quite small. It's in that blue hatched line, right in here. When I did some just measurements on the computer about the biggest area, biggest size of a building that you could get square or rectangular within that buildable area and still meet the setbacks that were 20 feet from the front, 5 feet from the side, the maximum you could get was like 911 feet. Attachment 2 here is showing where the property is located. Attachment 3 is the zoning of the property. Attachment 4 here is a site map and approximately where I believe he wants to construct the building. If you've been out on the site, he did have flags up showing where he was proposing to have the building. I do want to note, I did meet out there with a couple of neighbors who had initial concerns about the 0-foot setback.
That was my concern.
So we went out and we measured, we went out and verified the street width, which is 40 feet, and the right-of-way there, which is 80 feet. And then what we could do is extend that down this unimproved area, basically right through the middle of this sign, sign that shows that you need to go right or left. And then from there, we were able to show them how far back this building is actually going to be. And once we went through that, they were more comfortable and weren't in opposition to that 0-foot setback. I think they were believing that 0 foot will put them right up to where people are driving
That's what I
through
was,
that area, and that's not the case. Here's
John, can I ask a quick question? So can you get back to the previous picture?
This one?
So theoretically, if the city would decide that it's time to put an alleyway in there or just improve that somewhere, where would the road, where would the road go? Where
Great
would-
question.
What would it look like?
so this black line right here
Yeah,
is the edge of the road right of way. The roadway itself, the road bed itself, would be approximately, it would be 20 feet.
oh, okay.
So the curb to curb is 40 feet, that would come through here. This road right of way is 20 feet beyond the curb.
The road right away, the 0 brings it up to the road right away, which
Right.
means that 20 feet from the front of that building would be the curb of the
Correct.
street. Okay.
Now, when I drove out there, this is like, this road has been improved a lot in the last few years because you used to like fall off onto 12th at the end of that road, but who's responsible, who's going to be maintaining that? How much traffic is this going to put in? There's a sign in the middle of the road that directs you. Is the city have to take that sign out, or?
No, the city doesn't plan on doing any improvements on that road. They grade it periodically, and they do remove snow, but as far as I understand, the removal of snow gets pushed up to that sign, and that's where it kind of ends. So, there was no plans to remove that sign or to have that in any kind of way be like a area where traffic can pass through easily.
That gravel road is essentially right now an alleyway for the property owner's access,
Right.
Yeah.
not a throughway.
Yeah, it just goes by the railroad trestle, kind of ends there, yeah.
Right. There are a number of properties that their backyards butt up to that, and they use that as access.
John, that house that's to the south, how far away is that approximately from the building location? To,
Close to the south.
Is that the Klein House?
I'm assuming that's the Klein house. Yeah, is that,
Boy,
I mean, is it
if
50,
we're looking
100 feet
here,
away?
It's probably in the 80 to 100 feet away.
Okay,
Looking at the scale here on the bottom.
sure.
Mr. Klein owns this property right next door here, though.
Oh,
But
Is
his
that
house is
a-
over here.
Is that a buildable lot then also, or anything
It's
could be
gonna be
buildable?
it's gonna be real tight there if, probably a small storage shed without any variances or
Sure.
things like that, so.
okay.
But there wouldn't be a house there.
No.
That's where I'm going at with that question. Okay.
The height also concerns me. Being that it's 23 feet high. What is the reasoning behind that much of a building?
The applicants are here, and I'm sure they're
Okay.
happy to answer.
State your name and address, please.
I'm Fred Bianchi. That's my wife Laura Bianchi. 1601 North Franklin Street is our address. The numbers that John presented you on the height and the square footage, the variance that we're looking for, those are maximums. I don't have a set size to this garage planned yet. On a pole shed, I mean, if you need snow removal off the roof, so the wider you go, the taller it gets. So that 23 feet is probably if you're 30 feet wide or even wider, which I'm almost positive the shed will not be that wide. So that 23 feet, I left it in there, I put it in there just for safety reasons in case my measurements were off or something. Do I think it'll be 23 feet? I do not. But I can't give you a solid number.
Okay, except that we'll be voting on 23 feet. You understand that?
Yeah. Well, and it won't be over that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. These are maximums that it will not be over.
Fred, what would be
16
the
feet
height
is-
of the sidewall?
Well, my goal here is,
For your goal?
my goal is the tallest door I can get in up to 14 feet
Okay.
for a camper RV.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at here, you know, if I go narrower, I'm gonna go longer, it won't be as tall, but if I can get a 16-foot sidewall and have a 14-foot door, that's my goal. Because I think that's the tallest RVs and campers can be, are 14 feet. So that's why 14 foot is about as big a garage door as you're gonna find for a pole shed.
Can you fit a camper around the sign in this middle of the street?
We have to come in from the north,
Okay.
from 12th.
Okay, it was just, because that's,
It's You can see it's in a fairly heavily wooded area.
Yes.
If you drive by there today if there was a shed there, you wouldn't even know it's there. It's besides the opening where the gravel is the build site, it's wooded. The only thing separating it from the industrial side where there are big sheds is 100 feet in a railroad track. So it's,
Right, but to the north are residential areas, houses,
there is. But like I said,
which is different.
you drive by there, you won't even see it.
Well, the people to the west of you see it.
They would,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anybody on Spring Street's going to see it.
Well, these two neighbors will see it, and Tom, you might see a little bit, there's a lot of trees right in there. And you know, the road turns here, so they're turning, they barely will see it. I believe it's 918 North Valley, there's a shed that is well above the 16-foot limit. If you're worried about this variance, thinking you're gonna have a explosion of variance applications on big sheds, I don't think that will happen because I've looked all over this town and there are no lots to build on. So I don't think you need to worry about everyone thinking they're gonna want a tall shed and big shed.
Are there any other questions for the city?
John, you said you talked to the people that submitted the emails?
Yes.
And with
I talked to two of the people that submitted
two of the
emails.
three, and they're obviously not here, but they were more comfortable after you talked to them and showed them the distances.
They were comfortable with the setback request
Okay.
in their emails, and you can see in their emails that they still had concerns about the height and the size.
Okay.
But John, in this area, we've granted a variance for oversized already, right in that vicinity.
We did. I looked back at that one. The reasoning was because they just didn't think it was a big deal. And
Who is they, the planning commission or the previous counselor?
it was kind of a little bit of both.
Okay,
A little bit of
so
both.
maybe the consensus, it's really not a residential neighborhood or a developable area, or we don't really have any findings of facts, I suppose.
Not at that time. Not at that time period.
And there's no problem with the railroad right-of-way being that close and that height?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
But we could end up with a taller sidewall, say for instance, if it had some severe topography, you know, in some cases, but you're taking the height off of the floor height, off of the level of spot and going up. And currently, we're restricted to 16 feet
At the peak.
at the peak. And he's looking for like a 16-foot wall and then
Depending on the pitch and how wide.
depending on the pitch and what his final footprint comes out for his process, but he's trying to,
Not to exceed 23 feet,
Yeah.
1 inch.
yeah.
Okay.
I guess, so if the building was built to a maximum that's allowable, you don't feel it'd be a usable building? I mean, if we stayed within the height and the square footage, you don't think that would be usable?
So right now it's at 1,000 square feet, and to get a tall door in, I mean, it's gonna be 20 by 50. It's gonna get narrow, you know, if you want to park too wide.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's gonna be a cold storage shed. It's gonna, you know, this is my problem, but everyone's got too many toys and junk, so you gotta store it indoors.
Well, I have a neighbor that stores his huge, big trailer, fifth wheel, in his garage, and it's not 23 feet tall. It's it's the height that I think I'm having problems getting past. But it's in an area that
Everybody's got different size of toys, I guess.
I know.
know, and everything
they're
gets bigger.
Not getting smaller, are they?
So,
No.
I think he's probably trying to be proactive or looking at the future if he ever wants to get rid
He's
of it.
gonna put a
It-
big.
Well,
big
someone might want it,
Deck on top of
you know,
his
you know,
his
but
mobile home. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Well, and I'll go through, excuse me, I'll go through the findings of fact.
I want to close the public hearing before you
But
do.
I just, I think staff's concern is that, what stops anybody from coming in and saying they want a bigger and taller building? And that's kind of where we're coming from,
Right,
so.
okay. Okay. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to close the public hearing and go into the finding of facts. All right, public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Okay. Here, do you want to read the questions this time and I'll respond?
I
to them?
can,
feel like the
if
flow
you,
might go a little
I'm
better.
just trying to get to next here, so. I think I'm almost there. There was only one finding of facts with this one, correct?
Oh, no. There was
I'm
three.
on 36.
There was three, but I wanted to note that the height and the size, we could probably combine that into one because the responses are almost identical. If you're okay with that.
Okay, okay, which one do you want to go to? The one on page 36 or 42 or?
Let's go to the 0-foot setback one, which would be, let me get to there.
It's
It is
on page
It is
36.
page 36.
Okay. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the city zoning ordinance?
Staff responded, yes, this request is in line with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and provides for the proper use of land, in particular where land shape and size are unusual or unique.
Are we in agreement?
Agreed.
Thank you. Is the variance request consistent with the city's comprehensive plan?
Staff responded, yes, the comprehensive plan designates this area as low-density residential. A garage that meets the requirements for low-density residential districts is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Agree. Does the proposal put the property to use in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city zoning ordinance?
Staff responded, yes, this property is unique in shape and size and is not suitable for a residence to be constructed. It is unlikely at this time that a portion of North Valley Street abutting this property will be impacted at all.
Agree?
agree.
Does the proposal impair adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, unreasonable increase congestion to the public streets, increase the danger of fire, substantially diminish property values, and will not be materially detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or injurious to the property or improvements in the zoning district or neighborhood in which the property is located?
Staff responded that the proposed setback variance does not impair any of those above-mentioned items.
Agreed. Are the physical surroundings, lot size or shape, topography, water conditions, or other physical conditions unique to the property?
Staff responded, yes, the property is unique in size and shape and with a steep slope to the east where it meets the railroad right-of-way.
Agreed. The unique circumstances related to the property do not generally apply to other properties or buildings in the same zoning district or vicinity.
Staff responded, yes, the triangular shape and size of the lot are unique and do not generally apply to properties in this zoning district. The railroad right-of-way has cut up some of the surrounding lots and has created similar lots in the area.
Agreed. The unique circumstances related to the property were not created by the owner of the property.
Staff responded, yes, the unique circumstances were created by the location of the railroad right-of-way prior to the current property owner owning the property.
Will the variance alter the essential character of the locality?
Staff responded, no, this area has been granted variances previously to construct accessory buildings without a permitted use in the past, because of unique lot shapes and sizes. The location of a 0-foot the location of a building at a 0-foot setback will not alter the essential character of the location.
Agree.
Is the variance request the minimum amount necessary to eliminate the practical difficulties?
Staff responded, yes, there is a steep slope at the rear of the property and the proposed location of the building is proposed as so not to be placed on the steep slope.
I would agree. Do economic considerations not allow for the reasonable use of property?
Staff responded, no, the proposed 0-foot setback is not being applied for because of economic conditions, rather because of the unique shape, size, and slope of the property.
Agreed. Since we're in agreement on this proposal, I would need a motion. You want a motion now, or you want to go through all of them?
We could do a motion now. I just want to note that we had recommended 2 conditions. One condition was that the property, or if the variance is granted, for this variance to be recorded and paid for by the property owner with the Brown County Recorder. The second condition was a condition that was requested by one of the neighbors, and that was that it would be constructed, it would be stick-built and match buildings in the residential neighborhood. We have that in there as an option. Our zoning ordinance doesn't require that. We don't have any stipulations in our ordinance that would require someone to build with a certain, let's call it, look to it necessarily. But it was an option that is available to you as the Planning Commission.
John, have we used that in the past with any other buildings that were,
So I looked at
Within our
6 of
community?
these, 6 of these detached accessory structures in the community, and did find we did indeed use it on one of the 6. Just so happened that that one is right down the street from this one.
But there is a metal shed just to the north of 12th.
Yep.
Which would be, just on the other side of the east-west running street.
Which is one of the 6 that was granted a variance to be placed there.
Where is this building?
It would be just, on that picture, it would be just across the street in the upper left corner of that picture. I mean, it's right next to the big, huge garden there.
Yeah,
also
that's
about-
part of the, is that part of the New Ulm Telecom or
No.
one of those other buildings?
No.
Private
Right
property.
across the railroad from New Ulm Telecom.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't drive down that far when I was, okay. We do not have to put both conditions on this.
What was the
Vote.
first condition again?
First condition that it would be
The first
permit
condition
be
has to
recorded
go,
with
but the
Brown.
second condition is an option, correct?
I mean, I propose that we go with the first condition, not
is that your motion, or do we
Well,
have to, or just your?
I'm just putting it out there for
Okay.
discussion right now.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I would agree with that.
would agree with that.
Well, then I would make a motion to recommend approval of the variance request of Fred and Laura Bianchi to reduce the minimum front yard setback for the construction of a detached accessory building at 0 feet on parts of lots 8 through 13, block 11, north of Center Street, with one condition.
And
of
that
being
being.
recorded.
Being recorded. Thank you. I
I
have a
will-
motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 0-foot setback, front yard setback. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to the next. Are you ready?
I'm ready. And again, this will be for both the height and the size.
It's height and the side, okay. And this is page 39, correct? Okay. Is the variance in harmony with the purpose and intent of the city's zoning ordinance?
So staff responded, no, the proposed use of structures in this zoning district require a structure to have a maximum height of 16 feet and a maximum size of 1,000 square feet. The purpose of the ordinance would be to provide a scale of buildings that is consistent with surrounding neighborhoods and not industrial properties.
Okay, I'm on a different page than you are, I think.
So, page 39.
Oh, is it 39? I thought he
Yep.
said 16 feet. I didn't,
He's combining the two.
okay, he's combining, all right,
So we just do it once.
all right. Are we agreeing?
I'd agree.
I would agree.
Agreed.
It's variance requests consistent with the city's comprehensive plan.
Staff responded, no, that the comprehensive plan designates this area as low-density residential. The proposed variance for an increase in height and size is consistent with a building in the industrial area and not in a low-density residential area.
Yeah, I'd
Agree. Does the proposal put the property to use in a reasonable manner not permitted by the city zoning ordinance?
Staff responded, yes, that the zoning ordinance sets a maximum height of 16 feet and size of 1,000 square feet for residential detached accessory structures. Other residential property owners who would like to build a detached accessory structure can also go no higher than 16 feet or 1,000 square feet. So that actually should be no, shouldn't be yes.
I was questioning, okay. No is correct. I would agree with no.
I would agree. I would agree with no.
Does the proposal impair adequate supply of light and air to adjacent properties and reasonably increase congestion of public streets, increase the danger of fires, substantially diminish property values, and will not be materially detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or injurious to the property or improvements in the zoning district or neighborhood in which the property is located?
Staff responded, no, that this proposal does not impact or impair any of the above noted items.
Agree.
Are the physical surroundings, lot size or shape, topography, water conditions, or other physical conditions unique to this property?
Staff responded, yes, the size and shape of the property are unique, but the request for a taller building or a building larger than 1,000 square feet is not a result of a uniquely shaped lot or lot size.
I would agree. Unique circumstances related to the property do not generally apply to other properties or buildings in the same zoning district or vicinity.
Staff responded, yes, the size and the shape are unique, although some properties in the immediate area are also impacted by the railroad right-of-way. A unique lot does not create the need for a variance for a taller or larger building than what is allowed by the city zoning ordinance.
I would agree.
Agreed.
The unique circumstances related to the property were not created by the owner of the property.
Staff said no, the size and the shape were not created by the property owner, but the height, the proposed height, and the proposed size request was created by the owner.
Agreed.
Will the variance alter the essential character of the locality?
Staff responded, yes. Residential detached accessory buildings are required to be a maximum of 16 feet to fit the residential, 16 feet in height and 1,000 feet in size to match the neighborhood character. A taller and larger building would be out of place to the neighbors' buildings to the south, but similar to the neighbors' buildings to the northwest.
All right. Agree.
I'd agree.
Is the variance request the minimum amount necessary to eliminate the practical difficulties?
Staff responded, no, that staff does not believe there is a practical difficulty on the property that justifies the need for a taller or larger than allowed building on the property.
Agree.
Agreed.
Do economic considerations alone not allow the reasonable use of the property?
Staff responded, no, that economic conditions do not deny the reasonable use of the property. The property can still be used a 16-foot tall building and a 16-foot tall, 1,000 square foot building can still be built.
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay. It is my understanding that this needs a motion of denial because it does not, we did not answer the questions. All in favor. So I need a motion from the floor.
Yep, I'm looking.
I would enter a motion to deny based upon the variance requested because it does not suit or create a requirement for a bigger, taller building. The property, it does not.
I'd second that.
I have a motion and a second to deny the motion based on height and size of the building. All in favor?
I,
No,
Again,
for opposed.
pardon me?
I'd be opposed to that motion.
Okay.
And I was just hoping that we could add discussion there after the motion and the second, but I was just going to make a comment on the size of it because we've already granted it in that area. I don't feel a couple hundred square feet's going to worry anything on that for that neighborhood, but just my thoughts.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that part of the motion is denied.
Do a roll call? Should do a roll call vote then.
Pardon me?
We should probably do a roll call vote for
Okay.
that motion.
Do you
So-
want to call the roll, or do you want, I can call the roll if you want. Go ahead.
Sure, so, Kate,
I approve.
and Mr. Mack,
No,
and Ms. Earl,
I deny the motion. I approve. I approve the motion denying the request.
Mr. Munson,
Didn't, I made the motion to deny the request. I can stick with that.
Ms. Sellner,
I deny the request.
Mr. Schatzko.
I will, after hearing Counselor Mack's, I would say, I would back Counselor Mack's recommendation.
3 in favor of the motion, 2
Four.
in opposed to the motion.
4 in favor,
4 in favor, 2 opposed.
2. And it goes to the council on this.
August 2nd at 4:30 PM.
Okay.
And so they will also hear all 3 requests. Planning Commission makes a recommendation to them, and the city council makes the ultimate decision on their recommendation and your request. Okay?
Comprehensive plan update to,
Let me get back to me. So we're going to go through all the comprehensive plan stuff here at the next,
after
after this meeting. So all I can tell you is that we're working currently on, we're working on the land use section of the plan in particular. So we're working on the map, the land use designations, high density, low density, medium, and then also working on the future land use map, and that's what we'll be looking at tonight.
Are we still on track to be,
We're probably looking at September, October.
which was generally kind of where we thought we'd land?
Generally, I think the thing with this right now is that there's a number of things that the consultants wanted to do towards the end of this. They wanted to have a public, open forum, and then also have kind of a meeting with the council separately. But I think with the timing of things and the cost of them coming down, we are going to be combining that into one night.
All right.
Interesting.
Okay. City council decisions concerning planning commission matters in June and July of 2023.
Okay, and I'll make this fast. So, They approve amending ordinance 2023-071 regarding the I-2 general industrial smaller lots and auto-related businesses. Staff has already sent out letters to all of those businesses, the 30 that we are aware of. And we've already had a number of site plans already come back. I think it were like 5 or 6 that have already come back. So we've been going out with them, talking over what we're actually looking for here, and it's worked out, I would say, fairly well.
There's no negative feedback or anything? And if people here seemed receptive, but
Yes, I can tell you that the ones that were probably are going to be the most out of compliance with those regulations have not been in
Okay.
have not been in contact with us.
okay.
So
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be sending out another letter here. That doesn't have to actually be submitted to us until it's like the end of September. And the ordinance actually goes into effect here August 7th. So we're just trying to be proactive, I guess. Council also approved the development agreement with M&D Properties for Oak Bluffs 10th edition. They had 2 work sessions. At the first work session, they directed staff to develop an ordinance on grazing goats in the city of New Ulm to try to take care of noxious and invasive species. So staff's drafted that. We've sent it around with staff to the city attorney and actually sent it out to a couple of the people who manage goats to see if this is something that makes sense to them too. And we're just waiting on their feedback. And then it'll be brought directly to the city council. They also authorized the city manager, attorney, and staff to negotiate the development agreement with CBC Fisher Group to develop the George's Ballroom site, which is planned to be, right now, 39 apartments plus commercial on the first and lower levels. So it's kind of exciting.
Does that include raising the building that's existing or
Include what?
raising the building that's there? Tearing it down?
Yeah. And what about parking? I read something about parking.
It was underground when
Yep, a
Yeah.
lot of underground parking.
Nice.
So it's kind of a unique property in the sense that on Center, it has probably what could go up to the first floor.
Mhm.
And then on German, you could have all kinds of underground parking there. So there's 2 options for underground parking.
Does this property go to the next, from Center to First South, or is that house on First South still stay? So it's just the current enclosed by the fence property? So there'd be one little loner thing on the corner?
Potentially 6 lots, because there's 7
Yeah.
to a block.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Okay, is there anything else, John?
Nope.
Heritage Preservation didn't have a meeting, so unless is there any other business questions? And this meeting stands adjourned. Does anybody need a 2-minute break before we go into the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, I just need to